If an employee loses their job when they're on probation, they're in a very weak position. They really can't bring a claim for unfair dismissal because they won't have the 12 months required for the Unfair Dismissals Act 1977. However, they may be able to bring a claim of discrimination because there's no requirement to have 12 months service to bring a claim for discrimination. There was a recent case there in Dublin involving a creche worker, a young employee who had been dismissed. She worked in a creche and she was dismissed during the probation period. The employer's position was that it wasn't working out or she wasn't satisfactory or whatever. She brought a claim to the WRC, but of course she was prevented from bringing a claim under the Unfair Dismissals Act 1977 because she didn't have the required 12-month service. However, she brought a claim under the Employment Equality Act for discrimination. In other words, she claimed she was discriminated against, I think on the grounds of age, and she won her case at the WRC. The employer then appealed that decision to the Labour Court. She had been awarded €2,000 at the WRC. Now, in relation to proving your case in a discrimination case, it's up to the employee to firstly establish facts from which a reasonable inference of discrimination can be shown. If the employee manages to do that, then the burden of proof shifts to the employer, and the employer must prove that essentially they did not discriminate against the employee. In this case, when it went to the Labour Court have to have a belief or have an opinion or have a feeling that you're being discriminated against. You must establish facts from which a reasonable inference of discrimination can be shown or can be inferred. If you can't do that, then you can't shift the burden of proof and the employer doesn't have to prove anything and you cannot win your case. And in this case, the Labour Court set aside the award of €2,000 and basically said that all that's required of the employee in the first instance is to establish a prima facie case of discrimination to shift the burden of proof to the employer. But they must establish that prima facie case. Without that, the burden doesn't shift and the employee loses. This burden will not be shifted by mere opinion or assertions or the fact that the complainant falls within one of the discriminatory grounds. Something more than that is required. The something more is facts from which a reasonable inference of discrimination can be shown. The Labour Court set aside the award of €2,000 to the employee. I hope you find this video useful. If you do, I would appreciate if you gave it the thumbs up down below. Thanks a lot.